Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show, Minimalist Techie, and welcome to our newsletter, Sridhar's newsletter, and the podcast with the show called Minimalist Techie. I appreciate you being here. So you can connect weekly on interesting topics, or you can just add your email ID onto the newsletter, so you can directly get your weekly updates directly into your email inbox. And do subscribe to our show, Minimalist Techie, on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Show name is Minimalist Techie. And yeah, and from this week onwards, the show is also available on YouTube. So on YouTube as well, the channel name is Minimalist Techie. Or you can always directly hear it on the email which you are receiving through my subscription, or directly on the website. You can just click on play and just listen to these videos on free. So this week newsletter is mostly about the article, books, videos, etc. I read or I watch, or my views on a different topics which revolves around my head during the week. For today's episode, I would like to talk about a different topic which is different than my regular format of the articles and books I read. Basically, this is more like a continuation of the last week's discussion for the autism perspective to getting started. So I think last week we talked about mostly in the perspective of whom to reach out from your county perspective, what is the process for child find, and so that you want to get started from the schooling perspective, right? So for this week, I want to talk about again on the same topic, which is pretty personal to me as well. So this is continuation of the last week's podcast show. So basically, last week's episode, and so this episode is again continuation on those lines where now that yeah you are set in school, and through school you are receiving all those special education services, but outside of school as well you would like to go through the additional services for your kid. Either you're looking for ABA therapy, speech therapy, or occupational therapy, any different types of therapy, right? Depends upon the disability you see. You can you'll be reaching out to the other medical steps or to the mental health behavior perspective. There are additional aspects as well where you'll be you can add even additional therapies apart from the school perspective. So yeah, so let's get into our topic, which is autism diagnosis and starting the therapies, basically to getting started on therapies. So I'm also a parent of a wonderful autistic child myself. So today we are focusing on the very critical first steps on this particular topic, where getting started with a diagnosis. You do require autism diagnosis, and then starting therapies. This can feel very overwhelming, so we are breaking it down into a manageable steps for you, so that it's pretty clear. Pretty clear. Okay, so let's get in. So deep dive into the each step. What will happen in order to take these very first steps towards your journey toward autism diagnosis, and followed by the therapies. So first thing is the referral and the waiting period. So the journey often begins with a concern. Maybe your child isn't meeting the speech milestones, or has repetitive behaviors, or struggles with social interactions. If you have any concerns, the first step is to talk to your pediatrician. They are your gateway to the specialized care. Ask for a referral to a child development pediatrician or a development pediatrician specialist who can conduct a formal autism evaluation. Yeah, in the last week episode, we talked mostly from the school perspective. So in school perspective, what are they do? They also do the same type of an diagnosis, but in order to utilize your insurance perspective, in order for you to take additional therapies outside from the medical field or from mental health field, you do need to have the formal evaluation performed, right? That is where we are talking about. Initially, to have this referral from your pediatrician, so you can reach out to a a special child development pediatrician who can perform this type of evaluation for you. Yeah. So here is the reality where it kicks in. Wait times for these appointments can be very long, sometimes several months. Yeah, at least in the state where I am in Virginia, if you're trying to get appointment to the bigger hospitals like Reston Hospital or yeah, Loudon Hospital, so any bigger hospital centers in here, mostly the wait periods are near to 7 to 8 months just to get an appointment. So, so you have to submit your application first, then you'll be in a waiting queue. After 7 to 8 months, once you'll be current, then they'll be calling you. Then there will be a followed by a month long, maybe every week one appointment will happen in order to go through for your evaluation, and then they will give you the autism official autism evaluation, right? So wait period is pretty long. So instead of waiting for those 7 to 8 months, even in my case as well, initially when I started, I had few calls, and then I got into certain providers with whom I was interested. I submitted the documentation, but then I had to wait for 7 months in their queue. But what I did was, right after 1 month, I had actually, I was seeing like there's too much of waiting time because I want to get started immediately. Then I took a different route. So that's the reason why I'm doing this particular episode. So we can just talk about that particular process. So this is where you can take a proactive actions, which is pretty crucial for you. So don't just wait for the appointment your pediatrician is setting it up, because don't know based upon which state you are in. There might be a wait period of 7 months, 10 months, 1 year as well, right? So contact your insurance company immediately. Ask them for the list of in-network providers who can diagnose the autism. This is very important for the coverage. So once your insurance provides you all in-network providers, you can call each provider on the list and ask them about their current wait times. So you can list out each provider what is their wait times, whether someone is 9 months, someone is 6 months, someone is 2 months, right? You can list them out who is having the lesser wait time. So just to understand that this initial appointment is mainly to get that evaluation done, so you can have the autism report on your hand. See, once official evaluation is done, insurance will actually take that evaluation, and that evaluation is valid for 2 years or so. And then you can utilize the document not just at that particular provider. You can just simply utilize the document and then go to any different speech therapist or ABA therapy across your location, right? You don't have to redo this evaluation every yearly or monthly, right? So you have the evaluation done for once in a 2 years, and then you can utilize that and then schedule independently with whichever provider is in your network for all the therapies, right? So please make sure list out them, and then you might be seeing a significant differences. And calling your insurance back and forth and asking them to find the providers with the earliest availability can also be very helpful. Be very persistent and advocate for your child. Even in our case as well, initially when I got into that 8 months of waiting queue, after a month I was calling my insurance multiple times. Then I even they provided me the list. Then I called multiple times again and again. Then they took an action item that they are the one who. So they took action item on their end. So they will call some 10 providers, and they will come back to me with the providers who are readily available in the market to schedule this evaluation done immediately, right? So that was pretty helpful for me, so I really don't have to wait for 8 to 9 months, how other parents in the area were actually waiting for it. Insurance came back with certain provider who was ready to do the appointment in next 2 weeks. And it's just that the location was not in a 5 miles to 10 miles radius. It was 35 miles away from my location. uh, but it was okay, but because it's just I just have to go once in a 2 years. So maybe I have to go 2 or 3 times in order for the evaluation. So I took a half day leave, and went only twice. Then got his autism diagnosis got done, and we had the evaluation in our hand. See, getting that initial diagnosis is very key to unlock all the essential therapies which the kid would need. Yeah. Let's talk about preparing for the evaluation. While you are waiting for the appointment, start gathering all the information. The more and more information you can provide to the diagnosis, the better the results would be much more faster. Think about very specific behaviors and the different and developmental differences you have observed in your kid. So it might be related to the communication. Is your child's speech is delayed? Or do they use gestures? Do they understand instructions? Or social interaction issues like do they make eye contact? Do they engage with other children? Do they seem interested in social play or not? Are you seeing any repetitive behaviors? Do they have any repetitive movements like hand flapping or rocking? Are they fixated on a very specific objects or certain routines which they don't want to change their schedules at all? Or are the kids are kid is having any sensory sensitiveness? Are they overly sensitive to sounds, ambulance sounds, pressure cooker sounds, mixer sounds, right? So, or any lights, textures, or smells? Are they having any sensory issues? Write basically everything down so you can even create a timeline of your child's development. uh, so when did you first started noticing of certain developmental delay? At what age have you seen that a communication was there, and what age the communication got stopped? At what age you noticed that the kid is not interacting socially with other kids, or kid is showing too much of repetitive behaviors, or having some sensory sensitiveness uh, to either to sound, light, textures, or even to places as well. Because in my kid, don't for him going to a hospital, sitting in the small hospital room, waiting for the provider to come in. Those small rooms definitely freaks him out. But outside, he's a pretty regular, joyful kid. But those type of sensory issues happens a lot. So you have to note them down so you're very clear. So this is something you definitely need when you're filling the documentation for the developmental pediatrician before you go for your evaluation as well. So the detailed information will be very valuable to the professionals. Yep. So you will schedule the particular appointment in order for your autism evaluation. You'll fill the documentation prior to the evaluation, and they will share certain psychological documentations, etc. And you'll fill it up. Few would be check boxes. Few would be writing verbose statements. What type of behaviors or what are special concerns you have, right? You'll be filling that up, and then you'll go for the particular evaluation, and the psychologist or the social psychologist or the behavioral analyst, right? So different type of analyst will meet with the kid, meet with the parents, and then they will come with an evaluation done. So once the evaluation is complete, you will receive a formal diagnosis report. So this report is very essential for accessing services. So this services are something like, if now you can utilize this report, and it's not like you have to take those services in the same provider where the evaluation is done. No. So that particular report is actually valid for 2 years, and you can take that particular report and schedule your therapies with whomever you like, right? Who are definitely you'll be looking for someone who is part of your in network and the insurance. So the billing is not going too high for you, right? So first thing is get this formal diagnosis report. So this is not just for these type of services, additional therapy sessions. Even if you want to, if you are having some low income issues, then if you want to claim social security income on a kid, definitely this type of a report would be helpful for you to submit for the documentation. Right. So immediately send a copy of this diagnosis report to your insurance company. uh, if the mostly provider will be sending that directly to your insurance and also to you, right? And yeah, sometimes if they miss it, this is where things get pretty tricky sometimes. Insurance companies often require pre-authorizations for the therapies. So based upon your insurance plan, make sure you talk to your insurance ahead for each appointment, even for evaluation as well. You just have to call and let them insurance know that your kid is having so and so issues. That's the reason you need a evaluation for the kid. So they, some insurances require pre-authorization for even for evaluation as well, so get that approval. All you need to do is call them, and then over the call they'll be taking some notes, and then they'll be sending you pre-authorization for evaluation as well. Same thing for therapies as well. Insurance do require this diagnosis report first in their application, then they'll be giving a pre-authorization for the therapies to begin. So don't afraid to call to your insurance company regularly to check on the status of your authorization. So based upon your insurance plan, sometimes you'll be approved for 40 sessions per year, or sometimes if your insurance plan is pretty good, you might be getting uh, unlimited sessions in a calendar year, right? So ask them specifically what therapies are covered. It's not like in your diagnosis report, you might be referred to four or five or six different types of therapies to be done. But yeah, so do call your insurance, and based upon your own understanding, you should be knowing out of those six or seven therapies which have been referred, what are more crucial for you. And the therapies which are very crucial for you, then you can make sure that those calling your insurance confirming that they are in network, and those hours can be approved for your therapies. So this is very important because the report might recommend specific therapies like speech therapy, occupational therapy, applied behavioral analysis, and insurance will actually let you know how many number of hours per week, or how many number of hours in a year normally your insurance plans is covering them, and what would be insurance will cover and what would be out of pocket. Finding a right therapist is also very important. Once you have your insurance approval, now it's time to find your therapist. Again, your insurance company is your first resource. So ask for list of in-network providers, and for each recommended therapy like a speech therapy, occupational therapy, and applied behavioral therapy. So here are some important things to consider when choosing therapist. Experience. Do the therapist they really have this much amount of what is their level of experience? Do they have experience working with a very young children with an autism? Because if you're taking, autism can be available in teenagers, autism can be there in adults as well. So make sure you are going to certain providers who are experienced and working with the young children with autism. Location and availability for sure. Are the Is the location is conveniently located? Because not every therapist because some sessions happens at your home, some sessions happens at the provider location. Do they offer, you can cross check, you can ask them whether do they offer any home based therapy or a center based therapy. Do their hours work with your schedule? That's one of the most important thing, because from a school perspective, school is already providing you certain behavioral therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy things are already covered in your regular school system. So you have to be scheduling either after school hours. So again, note, after school hours also a lot of waiting period is there. So you have to flex your schedule enough. And sometimes if the therapists are not coming to your home, or if you're not at home, you're going to your work, then you have to make sure there will be a transportation facility who can pick the kid from the school or from home, or take them to the certain location, the center based approach to get them done, right? So try to get their availability for sure, and do work their availability based upon your schedule. So if your kid is pretty young, normally schools, if the schools are actually ending by 2:30, then 2:30 to 5:30 is what your sweet spot. You can schedule those sessions during those hours. Yeah. And else try to get slots at 1 o'clock, or try to get some slots some days at early in the morning. So you might be skipping school for those 90 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours of sessions. So you have to do those pick and drop from the schools, take the kid to the therapist, and then come and drop back at school. So at least for us, 1 o'clock slot works good for us. Once in a while, we bring him early from the school during lunch, and then instead of waiting for him to come back by 2:30, some sessions we do it, we pick him early at lunch, and then we have 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock session. Sometimes after school, if you're lucky to find those type of slots as well, then we have 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock or 3:30 to 5:30 based schedules. Yeah. And once your initial, as you meet these therapists as well, try to analyze their, definitely review their experience levels, review what is their personality and what type of approach do they take, right? Does the therapist connect well with your child? Do you feel very comfortable with that particular with their approach, right? So that's very important. So say, unlike pure medical diagnosis, where not everyone are as educated as a medical professionals, right? In this case, some of these behavioral therapies perspective, parent is plays a equivalent role as the therapist there, right? So because therapist sessions are hardly for 1 hour in a week, or 2 hours or 4 hours in a week, right? So rest of the day, on all weekends, parent is the one who is actually has to make sure whatever those therapy lesson learns, you are implementing those during the rest of the week. So it's very important that parent also connects well and is comfortable with the approach, because what are the approaches the therapist will be suggesting, you have to implement those. Only then you will be able to see any good changes in the kid very quickly. Think Yeah, if your child is already in a school, we already talked about it, so talk to their school district about the available services. They might offer some therapies through the individualized education program, IEP, which you already talked about it. It is also important to remember that finding the right fit for your child and a family may take a lot of time, right? So don't be afraid to try very different therapists until you find a best match. Even the school is providing certain therapies through the IEP plan, which we discussed in the last episode. It's very important that you take these additional services as well from your insurance if they are available. So try as much as you can help the kid. Uh, Definitely going to show results if you are doing these type of therapies very early at the age. Yeah. So school perspective, one thing is, yeah, I think we all talked about it, but let me just repeat it again. Do make sure you're having a small discussion if you're taking kid outside during the school hours for these therapies. Do talk to your school. Do let them know on what is the kid schedule day to day looks like, and what is the most easiest day for a kid to miss, like 1 hour or a 2 hours sessions during a school session. Like say, if something of not that important class, then maybe if you're not getting any slots during after school hours, then you have to work with the school to see, come up with certain slots will actually, you have to decide, your teacher has to decide, and then you guys can come and say, okay, maybe Thursdays 1 o'clock works for you, Wednesdays at 1 o'clock works for you. Kid doesn't have to be in school till 2:30, 1 to 2:30 they are just doing some simple play, etc., and all that. So you can take a decision based upon your child schedule and your schedule as well. So then you can take a best, if you're taking the kid outside of school, make sure that level of communication happens. I would say these therapies are actually outside of school, but it's better to communicate with the school that why you're taking your kid every weekly once or weekly twice outside of the school during the school hours, you're taking the kid out and then having the sessions and then coming and dropping them back, or you're missing certain number of classes every week, right? So it's important that you loop your respective school perspective as well, add your teachers in, so just so that everyone is on the same page. Mostly no one would be raising any concerns, because if you're starting very early young in the age, teachers will also be supporting in order for you to move forward with these additional therapies outside of the schools as well. Yep, let's recap all these key steps. uh, Take a referral from your pediatrician. Be very proactive. Proactively contact with your insurance and providers to shorten the wait times. Thorough documentation of your child's development is important. Obtain the diagnosis report and submitting it to the insurance, confirming that the insurance coverage for the therapies, and finding the suitable therapist. So those are the few key steps. So this journey can be challenging, but you are not alone. There are countless resources and support networks available outside. Look for in your local areas, any autism parent groups are there, or you can look for any on online Facebook autism parent groups in your locations. You can join those particular groups. You can have some play sessions with them and take some suggestions. What are some good therapists in these areas from online groups as well. Okay, remember to be a patient with yourself and your child. Celebrate every milestone, no matter how small they are. Early intervention in autism is very crucial. So by taking these steps, you are giving your child the best possible start. Thank you for joining. We hope this information has been helpful. I'll be back next week with more tips and resources for the parents of autistic children. Again, if you are doing any topic, uh, I hope this quick recap is definitely helpful for you, because even when we started this journey, those waiting periods, how to navigate it, navigate the system, it took a while. So that's the reason thought of doing a small episode. If any parent who is on a say, similar journey, uh, they can follow these key steps in order to fasten their journey and have the best steps are taken for their kid. That is all for this week. See you again. Do let me know in comments or reply me over the email to share what is your view on this post, or share, like, subscribe, whatever these days kid says. And once again, the show is also now available on YouTube along with Apple Podcast and Spotify. So yeah, this weekend made some effort to post the older episodes, so you guys can find the show on the YouTube if that's your favorite platform. That is all. So stay connected, share ideas, spread happiness. Thank you. Bye bye.